And so I think we can start welcoming people. So thank you, Commissioner McDowell, for attending the meeting. And as students, we are grateful that you're choosing to hear our voices and you're letting us ask you questions just to increase civic engagement across all of Charlotte, really. And although there are some people who couldn't be here, we believe that this town hall can be beneficial in educating students and for getting in touch with our leaders here in Charlotte. So in order for everyone to have a proper discussion, we do want to remind the BYA and Sunrise members to always be respectful and civil. This goes for Zoom protocol and just for asking questions in general.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I think I said hi earlier, but I'm gonna say hi again. I am one of the people that helped organize this along with Logan and Alexis. And once again, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming. I personally believe that as students with the future in like actually our hands, we have a duty to become civically engaged earlier in life to make sure that we kind of know what we're doing later on. Yeah.
Alexis, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis Lee. Um, I, once again, am so grateful for you all coming and for you, Commissioner McDowell. It means so much to me. I just started really getting involved, I think, in the past 6 months, and it has led me here, which I'm so grateful for. I think civic engagement is so important. As I want to involve myself in politics later on in life, whether that's at the local level or at the state or national level. I definitely think it's really important to be involved and to know what you're really talking about when you have these conversations, because I know conversations are extremely important in the time that we're in now. So yeah, I'm just grateful for everyone being here, and I'm excited to get things going.
Great. My name is Logan Ford. I'm a senior at AK. And one of the big things about the town halls is just the overall goal. We want to increase civic engagement, and I think a large part of the BYA and Sunrise is targeting high schoolers, because a lot of us do want to get involved. We see what's happening around the world, but we don't feel like we have access. We don't feel like we have a voice. So it's the leaders who choose to do things like this that really let us know that we're heard, and the ones who showed up here today who are taking advantage of that opportunity. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. All right, and so we can get started with Commissioner McDowell. Would you like to introduce yourself, give like a summary of what you do?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say this is a dream come true. The idea that we have young people who want to be engaged, civically engaged, is like, I can't tell you how many elected leaders talk about trying to get young people engaged. It's a big thing and it's super important. And, you know, you guys probably are not, many of you are voting age. And so, you know, maybe elected leaders are like, yeah, you know, we don't need to listen to them because they can't vote. We only care about voters, you know. That's a minority of people that I've been engaged with, elected leaders. Most people, they welcome and they really want to hear from their community, and especially young people. So having all these fresh young faces on this Zoom is just like lighting me up inside. It's great. It's really great. So I am a first-term county commissioner, and I was elected in 2018. I was not politically very active before 2016. It was the 2016 election that really sparked me to become involved, because I really felt that things were headed in a direction that I wasn't comfortable with. And it didn't, it really shook me to my core, to be quite honest. And so I decided, okay, I need to get a little involved here, because I don't really know, you know, how I can make a difference. How can I make a difference? And so I saw in the newspaper that a precinct meeting was coming up, and it was, you know, the Democrat precinct meeting. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to call this number. So I called the number in the newspaper, and the lady answered, and I was like, hey, you know, can I come to this meeting? Like, I never been to any of those, you know, kind of meetings before. And is this for, you know, just certain people, or can anyone come? And she's like, if you're a Democrat, you can come. And I was like, okay, I'll go. And so anyway, that was the very first meeting that I went to. And I became the vice chair of my precinct. So you guys are probably aware enough to know that the smallest level of organization, like grassroots, is the precinct level. So that is the that's how our counties are broken down into precincts. And so that was my first meeting, and I became the vice chair. And now, what does that tell you? Okay, because what the idea that I could walk into my very first meeting and become the vice chair of my precinct, you know, what it says is not that many people want to volunteer. Okay, people don't want to get involved. They don't want to volunteer, and I get that, because you guys probably know this from your parents, but life is hard. Being a parent, being in relationships, adult relationships, being a person in the workforce, being a homeowner, it's hard. I'm telling you guys, life is awesome, okay, but life is hard. And so people are very much understandably very involved in their own worlds. And especially if you're a parent and you're really consumed with your kids and those kinds of things, or your job, you're the breadwinner, and you just are like, man, I'm maxed out. I can't volunteer for more stuff. And so I think that a lot of people are in that position. And so I really get that. And so now, I'm a vice chair, and it's my first meeting, and we start going around, and people in 2016, after the election of 2016, people started to sort of flip out a little bit, like, uh-oh, you know, this is not okay. And so I don't want to be super partisan with you guys, because I don't know where you all stand, but I just have to say, normally it wouldn't be that concerning for someone of the opposite party to win, but it was the fact that a certain person who, I better probably not say more than that, it was different than other times. It was just, this is like, whoa, out of the box different. So so we started to organize at the precinct level, at the grassroots level, and we started to really see that in order for things to change, we had to change our representation. And once people become awake to that, you know, it's powerful. And so I started to attend meetings where I realized how South Charlotte, where we live, and I know that not everyone lives in South Charlotte, but like Ballantyne, my district is District 6, which is Mint Hill, Matthews, Ballantyne, Pineville, Lower Steel Creek, has changed so much. Our District 6 was being represented by a 22-year incumbent. Okay, this guy was a Republican who was sitting in that seat for 22 years. Okay, And he did not represent my values. And he was a pretty prolific guy, kind of like Trump, where he didn't care what he said, and if it hurt people, he was kind of racist, kind of, you know, just letting it fly, you know, didn't censor himself at all. And he did not represent my values. And so in a way, he was kind of easy to run against, because people were like, oh yeah, that guy, you know, as a woman, I don't think he took me very seriously as an opponent. And so he didn't really put up much of a campaign at all. And he'd always been able to win for 22 years. So he figured he had it in the bag. But people were awakened to, hey, wait a minute, we got to see what's going on here. And so I was able to beat him. And so that's how I started in 2018 as a commissioner, because I became activated at the precinct level. And then we began to see the thing that I learned that I'd love for you guys to learn is that it's up to us, the people, to take control, to take an interest in our representation. Because if we don't, people who maybe shouldn't be there walk in. And so what I thought that as a precinct organizer, I thought there was like a pipeline of candidates, and we just get the candidate, and then we go out there and try to you know, put out flyers and try to, you know, get publicity for that person, and you know, let people know about the person. I thought there was a pipeline, and this, I'm being 100% serious here. I thought you had to be a lawyer or something like that. I thought you had to have some sort of, I really did think you had to be a lawyer. And when I learned that, no, you don't have to be a lawyer, but what you do have to be is willing to work for peanuts. Okay? Because your elected leaders at the local level do not make good money. So you have to be independently wealthy, or you have to be retired, or you have to be in a job where a lawyer is like, where they make their own schedule and they're able to make enough money that, you know, they don't have to go to work from 8:30 to 5 every day, you know. And so I'm just saying, like, my perception was there would be this pipeline of qualified people, and you had to wait in line. I would never think of myself as being a candidate. But what I learned was there was no pipeline. It's people stepping forward to do the job. And there are qualified people that will step forward, and there are unqualified people that will step forward. And so that's what I've learned. That's one of the things I've learned. And you all can be qualified people if you pay attention and you learn, you become civically engaged like you are right now. I think it's great how young you are. If you're interested in politics, what a great background it would be to have, you know, political science, or, you know, an administrative, what's the public administration degree, those kinds of things, where you learn about policy, because policy is super important to understand how it works, especially if you want to have an impact. So anyway, I don't want to be like boring you guys with too much talk on my part without you guys being able to interact. But so I'm somebody who came from no political background at all, but just saw that my values weren't being represented, and I wanted to become involved. And so actually I had some other precinct leaders who were like, hey, we think you should run for it. And because we were like, who's going to run? Who can we get to run? We know we can flip this seat. Who can we get to run? And they all were like, we think you should run. And I was like, come again? I never considered that. And they were like, yeah, you should do it. You can do it. And my kids were at a point where my son had just gotten his driver's license. He was my youngest. So I had a little more freedom and didn't have to be like driving people around all the time and that kind of stuff. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try. And so lo and behold, I actually won. So that's how I come to you today as somebody. So as a county commissioner, 2-year terms. Okay, so 2-year terms, and what I've been doing today is raising money. And I hate raising money. It's the worst part of being a candidate, in my opinion, is having to raise money. Because I used to be the kind of person that would be going, we need to get money out of politics. I'm still that person, actually. We do need to get money out of politics because, boy, money screws everything up. But as a candidate, you can't get your message out without money. You can't reach voters without money. And that is the sad truth. So I need to raise money to buy postcards, yard signs, T-shirts for my volunteers to stand at the polling places, handouts, stamps, all that stuff adds up to thousands of dollars. And I don't personally have thousands of dollars for that. So I have to call people and be like, hey, can you contribute to my campaign? And so when I was a new candidate, that was even harder to do, but now it's a little bit better because I have a track record and I have things I'm proud of that I've done in my first 2 years. And I can talk about those things and I can say, if you value those things, you need to keep me in that seat and by contributing to my campaign. And it's because people are willing to do that. It gives me the confidence to say I'm representing people. So like right now, my opponent is self-funding his campaign. He's a rich guy and he is putting up $30,000 and he's saying, hey, everybody, don't give me any money. Give it to charity instead. I'm going to self-fund my campaign. And to me, I go, well, either you can't get any support. Who are you going to be representing? If you did win, you're going to just be representing yourself because you don't have people behind you and people who are willing to chip in. I get people chipping in $10, $25. Today I got $30 from one guy and I thought, oh man, don't even send me that $30. This is a guy in a wheelchair who, he doesn't have a lot of money. And he's called me up and asked me for some help on some things. And I'm like, oh, dude, don't give me money. You need the money, So, but, I don't have big donors. I have small donors. So that's the way I like it. I like to have more people giving me support than, just a few, big donors or self-funding. I just don't respect that. But having said that, I really do think money is a problem, especially at the upper levels. At the local level, not as much, but at the higher levels, it's definitely a problem, big problem. So anyways, I've talked a whole bunch. Do you guys know what the county commission does? So weird, I can't hear you guys. So I'm like in this like quiet place. So a county commission, the county commission and the city council are oftentimes confused. And one of the things we kind of like to say, those of us on the county commission like to say, that the city council is kind of like the brains, but the county commission is the heart of the community. So the county commission is responsible for things like public health. So like right now with COVID and all that, it's the county, the public health department falls under the county's purview. So we do public health, mental health. We do like community support services, for like veterans and like people on Medicaid and people who need services. So, social services and health services, people who can't get private insurance, people who, need unemployment and, all those kinds of things, they come to the county to help them with that. And so the county is sort of the heart. We also are over parks and recreation. So greenways, that kind of stuff. Although the city also does a little bit with greenways, but the county is Parks and Rec. We also we do the sheriff's office, but the city does the police. So we don't interact or engage at all with CMPD and their, anything with their affairs or their budget or anything. So let's see. So the city council does like streets, garbage pickup, transportation, buses, that kind of stuff, light rail. That's the city. But the county, we're the soft things, not the hard things. So we're more about people, and city is more like infrastructure. So I hope that explains it a little bit. Do you guys have any questions?
You were very enlightening and inspiring. I think that your description was definitely, it covered what the commissioner's office does. So thank you very much.
Yeah, actually, I forgot education. We also fund the school system, but it's not actually. It's really complicated how the school system is funded, but the county provides the funds for the school buildings. And the state and federal are supposed to pay for like the teachers and the curriculum and that kind of stuff. What's happened here in North Carolina, our teachers are paid dismally. And so counties give a supplement to teachers to try to draw them to our counties. So Mecklenburg County, when I first got on the board, that was a big deal in 2018. When I was elected, one of the things I ran on was increasing teacher pay, the teacher supplement. So the teacher's real salary comes from the state and federal, but Mecklenburg County gives a supplement to teachers of X number of thousands of dollars to say, come to Mecklenburg County and be a teacher here, instead of going to, Gaston County or Wake County. Teachers in Mecklenburg make the highest in the whole state now. And, in a way, it's terrible for a rural county. It really sucks to be in a rural county as far as with your school system. That's really hard. And as I've become a commissioner, I do go to commissioner big meetings for the whole state where other commissioners come from other counties, and I've gotten to know them a little bit. And I've really learned how important it is to think broader than just your own county. So when I think about Union County, Gaston County, the counties that surround our county especially, I try to think a little more regionally, because it really is important to not let those rural counties fall behind and not have resources. It's not good for them, and it's not good for us, because they'll end up draining off of our resources. to try to, get what they can. That's how you've got people living in, Union County, but they work in Mecklenburg, but then they go back to the lower taxes of Union County or to South Carolina so they can have lower taxes. That's a drain on Mecklenburg County. And so we want those other counties to do well too, so that they don't drain our county, and also just for the people to be able to have more resources. So that's a really important thing that I've learned after becoming a commissioner.
Thank you. Yeah. No, we appreciate your insight and everything that you've learned from being a commissioner. Does anyone have any questions about what she just said? All right. So we do have.
Someone has a question?
I have like a general question. Like, what is something that like you didn't realize was an issue until like you became a commissioner in like our county?
Well, I'll tell you, one of my big issues that really has been something that's been a part of my story is wealth and income inequality. I grew up in a very blue collar family, and my dad worked 3 jobs, and that was normal for me. And when I bring my history, as we all do, we bring our story into our jobs, into our worldview, and so I like to bring. You don't want to be only looking at one kind of person, and this is something that has really been sort of eye-opening, is just how many different kinds of families, workers, learners, people have so many different stories. I find it amazing and fascinating, just what people bring to the community. It's just so exciting. Like right now, seeing all your faces, it's like, this is diversity right here. This is just, it's just really exciting to me to see all of you all. And so I think, you're aware, but when you're an elected leader, I feel very responsible to know, or to really try to see where other people are coming from. That they're not coming to everything the way I'm coming to it. They're coming with their own lens. And that's something that I've really has been really eye-opening, But as far as issues that maybe are newer to me, gosh, there's just a lot about how government works that I really didn't know. I really didn't understand how much the General Assembly in our state of North Carolina, the General Assembly really runs everything. And there's like, the county can't do anything without the state allowing it. And so, we have policies and we have, budgets and all those kinds of things, but there's a lot of things that are mandated to us by the state. You have to do this, you have to fund this. And so in our state, it is so important that we flip our legislature, because right now, I'm telling you, those guys in the General Assembly, I don't know what they care about, but it's not the people. So they got to go. And, we've got to be in the majority to make anything happen. because there's no cooperation. And that is really sad. So if you're in the legislature and you can't even, the majority decides who's on committees, who's leading committees. If you're not in a leadership position, you just can't bring things up and be like, hey guys, we're having this problem in my district. Hey guys, can you help me out with this? Like, no, you can't even bring it to the committees unless you have their permission and you have to get support, and you have to get support from the majority in order to do it. So there's so much of that is just gross. And that's why we really need to have people who are people focused, not just like money focused, or I'm not sure what motivates our current General Assembly, to be quite honest. I just don't. So I didn't realize how important that was before, but now I really get it.
No, thank you so much. We do have somebody coming from the General Assembly later this month. We do. Oh, Wesley Harris.
I love Wesley Harris. He's great. He's so smart.
Really? Well,
yes.
We're so excited to meet him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. You'll love him.
Everyone, be sure to sign up for that town hall. And does anyone have any other questions? All right, then we'll move on. So one of the questions submitted by one of the attendees, Aiden Stein, has the floor first. Go ahead, Aiden.
Okay. All right. Do you think you and other Charlotte politicians have personally done your part to address the systems in our country tainted with prejudice? And how have you seen these systems economically wise?
Can you say it again?
Yes. Do you think you and other Charlotte politicians have personally done your part to address the systems in our country tainted with prejudice? And how have you seen these systems economically wise?
Economically wise. Well, I'll tell you, when I got on the Board of County Commissioners, the very first thing that you do is you go, like in the very first month, it was, you get sworn in December, and in January you go on a budget retreat. And so our all 9 of us, there's 9 of us on the county commission, in case you guys didn't know. There's 6 district representatives and 3 at-large representatives. And so at-large means they represent the entire county. The district representatives can be voted on only by the people in their district. But you still have the same vote as an at-large representative. So I can only be voted on by the people in my district, but my vote counts the same as somebody who's voted on by the entire district. So or the entire county. So that's really important. All of our votes are weighing the same. And the first thing you do, you go to this budget retreat. And I am just so proud of our board, because our number one priority when we came out of that was reducing racial disparities. That was 2018. That was January of 2018. Reduce racial disparities. And let me tell you, we got a lot of flack for that. People are like, that's not a thing. And, what do you mean by that? And that's so vague. And, I still hear people say that. I mean, and I'm just like, how can you not see that? But there are people who just don't see that. But our board is actually 5 African American and 4 well, three. I'm considered Latino because I'm half Latino. I'm the only elected leader in all of Mecklenburg County. And there's only 2 in the whole state that are Latino. So it's, yeah. But anyways, I still, most people think of me as white. So I am white, but I also identify as Latino. But so anyways, all I'm saying is we have a majority African-American board. And I'm telling you, you know, it's been super eye-opening, the things that we've been able to accomplish a lot. And when you talk about the budget, when you talk about economically wise, you're talking about the budget. And so one of the things that we did just this past year in like May or June was we declared racism a public health crisis in our community. So in Mecklenburg County, racism is a public health crisis. Okay, that sounds like it's just words. Some people criticized us. Well, that's just a proclamation. It doesn't mean anything. Well, let me tell you, that's how you get resources to things, is by saying it's a priority, directing your staff, and directing policy towards that end. So, you know, it can be just words. It can. But the intention of our board and what we have done is put money into things that help with that racial disparity. For example, millions of dollars. I think we assigned, I don't remember if it was $2 or $3 million for food deserts. Okay, y'all, that's unheard of. Okay, when we told our county manager we wanted to look into food deserts as a, you know, one of our objectives, I think she assigned like, you know, something like $200,000 or maybe it was $400,000 or something. And that's what she put in the budget. And we're like, no. It needs to be $3 million. We're serious about this. Okay, grocery stores don't want to locate in areas of town where they feel they're not going to be able to make a good profit. Well, there's got to be an answer for that. And hopefully $3 million will help us find an answer. It will help us get there, whether it's, I don't know if it's going to be in the form of some kind of subsidies to the grocery stores or what, but I don't know yet. We haven't figured it out, but we put money to it. Because if you don't have money to something, you can't make things happen. So that's just one example. We have fully funded universal pre-K. Okay, that's for all children, universal for the whole county. If you are within, I believe it's 400% of the poverty. Okay, so 400%, so 4 times the poverty level, you can get free, high quality pre-K. Why does that matter? Because what we've learned is that those first years, those first 5 years, those first actually up to 3rd grade, from zero to 3rd grade is huge. 0 to 4 is huge. You know, it's each of those stages are just so huge in the formation of a child. And so not only is it huge for the child, it's huge for the parents, because not only did we subsidize pre-K, but we've cleared the child care waiting list. So if you're a parent and you're a low wage earner and you're like, how can I put my kid, I need to put my kid somewhere. You're a single mom and you need to work, you know, the child care subsidy waiting list has been cleared in Mecklenburg County. because we put like $20 million to it. Okay. That is about racial disparities. That is about trying to help the children, but also help their parents be able to work and provide, be able to get a home, a proper home for their kids. It's just such a ripple effect. So I think those are those are a couple of things that we've done that I think show that we're serious about racial disparities. And I'm really sorry, Aiden, I totally forgot if that answers the question that you're asking.
It does. Sorry, I was using the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to hear that you're not only saying something, but you're doing something behind the words that you say, because you cannot say that for every politician. So thank you.
You're welcome. And it's really important that you guys are asking these questions, because I don't think people know about this. The only people that really know are the people who need the services, and they find out by going to a resource center, and they find out, oh, you qualify for this, but it's not like the newspaper. They don't really care. They're not writing about this. It's not sexy enough, people just don't hear about it. You have to want to know about it to find out. And most people, they just don't even think it's a thing. They don't know about it. So to become civically engaged like you guys are is rare. Most people are just, until they have an issue or a problem that they need to solve, it's just not on their radar. It's understandable, but it's kind of a shame too.
I just want to add on to something. Okay, so when you mentioned the fact that you were trying to eliminate food deserts in the Mecklenburg area, I actually remember that once during a speech and debate round, I was actually giving a speech on food deserts in America overall. And I actually mentioned to my judge how the steps that Mecklenburg and Charlotte were taking to combat. So I just want to say thank you for having those steps out there and trying to end that big issue. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool to hear that. Awesome. Wow, that makes me proud.
Alrighty, guys. The next person who has the floor is Olivia. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes. So first, little side note, you were talking about insurance, and that was so funny because we at Ardrey Kell, we have to do these things called senior boards. It's a whole research project, and mine is actually on how insurance kind of dictates our health care and all that, like, the quality of care that we get and all that. And I found out a lot of really interesting things, but the most important one was that 45,000 Americans die every year because they don't have health care.
Right.
Like health insurance, because not everyone can afford to drop $300 on a yearly physical. Mm-hmm. So that means a lot to me that this county at least is working on that. But I know specifically when you started talking about schools, specifically racism really is a crisis in the halls at Ardrey Kell. So we definitely, I'm sure you've seen some of the stuff. It's not good. And you said that you work kind of close with the schools and all that. So I was wondering, is there anything that CMS really can do for us to kind of hop in and maybe do more education so that at least, we can kind of try and say, well, we're trying to educate and move forwards so that we can maybe take some funding from some other areas police and stuff and put it towards that so that we can have programs in place that are not, optional, that are mandatory for us to kind of have to at least acknowledge these things and say, hey, they're prevalent here in this community. You need to learn about them.
Right. Have you guys, first of all, thank you for that question. I was at the rock painting that day, so I may have seen some of you guys there. I didn't even know it. But I came to that because, you know, I think a lot of times out here in our area, in Ardrey area, Ballantyne, you know, out this way, people perceive that it's one way that it's really not. But anyways, I would love to hear more about y'all's thoughts on what, you know, what would make a difference in your school. But I want to ask if you guys know about Superintendent Winston and his statement on racism in CMS, and his, did you guys see his statement about that he recently put out? Alexis is saying yes, Michelle yes, Olivia yes. I mean, I think that was a super big deal that he made that statement, and I just am so excited. First of all, that he's superintendent, and second of all, that he's starting out the school year with that statement. I think it's powerful. So I'm going to tell you that I have close personal relationships, you know, business relationships with at least four or five school board members, and they all think that this is an issue that has to be addressed. They all believe that, and they're all working on that. And so it really, I think there's a perception, well, school board gets a bad rap a lot, and they're the least paid. I mean, it's dismal what they get paid. They're basically volunteers, honestly, they really are. I mean, they get paid so little. The county commission, we get paid the most. And I don't even remember what it is, but it's not that much. You know, it's like 30-something thousand. But school board gets like half that. Okay. So yeah, it's supposed to be, you know, part-time. It's not part-time. This is a full-time job. I'm telling you, I work 24/7. I don't have days off. I mean, this is like, because I care. Because, I mean, I think you might have some commissioners and some school board and some city council that have been there so many years that they're sort of on autopilot. But I'm never going to get to that point, because I'll just quit first. You know, as soon as there's someone that I think is really representative of my values and, you know, somebody that I can support, I'll be like, hey, come on, it's your turn, you know, because it's a lot of work. But I don't want to be here for, you know, 22 years like my, preceding guy was. Definitely not. But the school board, it's kind of like, the way I think of it is, the school board has their hands tied behind their back, has their feet tied together, and has a muzzle of, you know, like duct tape on their mouth, and they're being told to go and solve all the problems of our basically that children have. You know, children, CMS has the highest number of poverty, you know, the highest poverty percentage of kids in our whole state. I mean, poverty is huge, and you don't know it if you're not if you live in the South Charlotte bubble. You don't really see that. But I'm going to tell you, it's real. It's very real. And so, I mean, I get choked up thinking about it. But our school board, they're doing the best they can to try to, they have so many mandates on them from the state and from the federal level, and things they have to do, things they have to fund. You know, every charter school out there, you know, they have to give charter schools money out of their own budget. So when you know, we have X number of 150,000 students in CMS, and then let's say somebody starts a new charter school, and they are going to have, you know, 200 or 300 students in that charter school. They get the per pupil spending for that 200 or 300 kids comes out of CMS's budget. They have to pay that. They have to, they're mandated. They have no choice. And so their budget keeps getting reduced and reduced. Their, their resources are crappy. They're crappy resources. And they're being asked to solve problems that are, like right now, think about COVID. Think about all those students who don't have access. And, being in South Charlotte, we don't really realize that there are people who don't have Wi-Fi. There's people, lots of people who don't have Wi-Fi. And they have to learn too. And so, we have to rely on charity from corporations and, private fundraising to try to meet this problem, because our state won't fund it. And so it's shameful. It's absolutely shameful. And so, that's a huge topic. But as far as, Olivia, getting back to your specific question about your school and what can you guys do, I think for you guys as students to go to the school board and be like, hey, we want education on, we want to have these talks about racism in our school. We want to learn about the origins of racism. What is the root cause of racial disparities in our community? I think if you go to them and say, we want to learn about this, that would be powerful. Organize and make your wishes known about what you want. I think that coming from you guys would be powerful. There's a thing called, who's heard of Race Matters for Juvenile Justice? Has anyone heard of RMJJ? Okay, well, look this up on Google. Race Matters for Juvenile Justice. That's a group here in Charlotte, in Mecklenburg County, that they teach. I've been to they have like a 2-day seminar where it's really all about the pipeline to prison. It's about justice and injustice, and it's about the origins of that in our country. It's super powerful, and they have free events that you can go to, free like lectures and stuff. I've been to Johnson C. Smith for a lecture. You guys can go to those things. They're free and they're powerful, really powerful. And I would challenge you to look for that and get involved. And there's a lot of people offering great things. You have to find it. You have to look for it and find it. And it's there. It's there. So I hope that helps answer a little bit of your question. I think what really, our schools are segregated. I mean, they're just, they're segregated, and that it's never going to work until we get desegregated. And the only way to do that, is, I think, to integrate our neighborhoods is super important, both racially and economically, right? So we need to have neighborhoods with mixed housing prices, not just all single family, all X number of, price tag. It needs to be a mixture of, multifamily units and single family houses. It needs to be mixed up. It can't just be all segregated like this. It's just not right. And I think that the school system is going to suffer until we do that, because busing went away because white parents didn't want it anymore, right? And that's just the fact. And, there are still people who think that way, as we've seen recently. there's still people who don't want to desegregate. They like it segregated better. And we have to make sure people like that aren't elected to any leadership position, whether at the local, state, or federal level. It's so important.
Thank you, Commissioner McDowell. You've definitely given us a lot to think about and inspired us to do something. We'll definitely use that idea, so thank you. Our next question comes from Natalie. Do you want to take the floor?
Yeah, thank you, Logan. And thank you, Commissioner McDowell, for joining today. So I am a South Florida native, and coming here to Charlotte, I was surprised to find tornadoes and hurricanes and a number of different climate events following me here. And we've seen the effects of Hurricane Laura in Louisiana, and we've seen the fires across the West Coast. And increasingly for this generation, the reality of climate change is becoming more and more apparent, and less avoidable. And I'm wondering what on the county level can be done as an individual commissioner, and I believe you're a part of the Environment Committee. What has been done and what can be done and what you'd like to see moving forward in regards to climate.
Great question. Yes, I'm on the Environmental Stewardship Committee, which we just started our 2018 year. Your current Board of County Commissioners added that as a new committee because we haven't had that. And so we are currently working on a resolution, climate resolution, although we don't want to call it that. We don't want to use the words climate change. We're trying to think of a way, because it gets dismissed among so many if you just talk about climate change. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it more, acceptable, or I don't know. Our chair of the committee is extremely knowledgeable about natural resources, and she has a depth of knowledge about natural resources. And her direction for the committee is really, she doesn't want to put out any empty proclamation or resolution. She's super concerned that we don't just say things to say them. Like, we support, clean energy, and by 2050 we're going to be, she's like, I don't want that. I want clear objectives. This is what we're going to do. We don't want to just say it. We want to make sure we can back it up before we say it. So currently, and these are public meetings, y'all. You can come to any meeting. You can dial in and listen now that we're not in person. But these meetings are on the website, mecnc.gov. All of our meetings are posted, and every single one of them is open to the public. So all you have to do is get on the mailing list, just say, hey, I'm interested. Like, there'll be a little link, and you can say, can you send me the updates or the meeting schedules, and they will send you the emails. And so you can see exactly what we're doing. But we've been getting over the last several months, or actually it's practically been a year now, where we've been getting presentations from different departments: air quality, water quality, solid waste, recycling folks. We get all these presentations, and tree canopy folks, and so we're building up to, in September, or it may be that we start building it in September and then adopting it in November, because it takes time, to put these things together. Hopefully we're going to have our resolution ready by, I would say, November. And it's going to be, what I would personally like to see is, electric vehicles. I'd like to see our county buildings, become more green, solar panels, all that kind of stuff. I'd like to see us recycle more. I'd like to see so many things. I'd like to see us not use plastic forks and knives when we have lunch and all that kind of stuff. But that stuff, not the plastic forks and knives, but changing your fleet is millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. To change our buildings to solar, massive amounts of money. We simply can't afford to do that. Okay, it's going to have to be a process, and it sucks, right? It's just too damn slow. Oh, sorry, shouldn't talk that way in front of kids. But one of the things that a lot of places are doing, they're adopting these policies, and then they're like buying energy credits from a wind farm or a solar farm or something like that. So it offsets the power or the energy that we're using, at the local level. And so personally, I don't know. What do you guys think of that? I don't think that sounds, it's just like throwing money at it without really fixing the problem. But fixing the problem, it's like you almost have to let things come to the end of their life cycle and then replace them with better things. But that just feels like it would take forever, and so it's really hard to balance the money that's available versus the money that it requires to turn turn our systems into, and of course they would save energy, so that costs less. So all of these things, there's equations that are being made about, well, if we put solar panels on buildings, it costs this much, and the benefit would be this much to the environment, which would help people with underlying conditions. And so that's a healthcare savings. And so there's people, that's their job, to figure out all those factors and how the cost analysis is. And believe it or not, everything comes down to money. And so one of the things that we did in this past summer in our budget was we added a sustainability person. That person hasn't been hired yet, but we put in a position at the county manager level. So to be at we have like lots of assistant county managers over different parts of county government, and we have created a position to be over our sustainability efforts. And so to have a person dedicated to that, I think will be a game changer, I hope, because you have to have someone who's really focused on it, because this stuff is really complex. So I hope that answers your question. I think it's super important.
Yeah, that does. I was just, when you said that, I was just going to ask if there's someone that's analyzing what the cost is to not do anything to the county, because there is a significant cost as well. But that answers my question.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Our next question comes from Alexis. You want to take the floor?
Hi. The first question that I'll ask you is, over the past couple of years that I've, lived in Charlotte, I always kind of go across town, whether that's making my way downtown on Freedom Drive, North Triumph Street, South College Street. I've noticed significant, the pushback of the city into these areas through gentrification of these neighborhoods. The city taking, these certain lands. I had my own personal experience with it when I went to a hair store off of Freedom Drive, and I drove past there one day expecting to go there, and I saw it boarded up because they were making it into an apartment building. And so my question is, will these projects, ever start to look to restore the neighborhoods that they're taking over? and make these homes affordable rather than, raising the land price, and, just displacing these people that used to live in these neighborhoods.
Mhm.
And, is there investment in affordable housing at the district level?
Mhm. Yeah, wow, that's a big, huge question. But you're exactly right. There's gentrification that is happening, and I think it's going to continue. It's just definitely going to continue. One little thing we did last night in our meeting, which went until 12:38 a.m. Okay, started at 6, went till 12:38 a.m. One of the things that we did was, for the first time ever, the Board of County Commissioners dedicated $250,000 for a taxpayer grant thing. And what it's for is for people who, like what you're talking about, people who can no longer afford their home because of gentrification, because their property values have skyrocketed so much that they can't, they can't afford to pay the taxes on their house, because you bought a house for, $30,000 and now it's worth $300,000, because that's what our city is doing. It's just, becoming more and more valuable, the land. So, we've created a program to try to, subsidize those property taxes, which, believe it or not, is really against the rules according to our state legislature. Remember when I said before, we don't get to do anything unless the state legislature lets us? Well, this is a case where, don't tell anybody, we're doing it, and we're gonna, see what happens. But it's like a pilot program. But we're really not supposed to be able to do it. But we're like determined that we really want to do it. But so it's really true. It's a double-edged sword. When you buy a home and it increases in value, that is awesome, because that's how you increase your wealth. Okay, so you want your home to increase. You want those values to go up, because then you pass it down. It's like a legacy. And that money, that investment that you make grows, and then your children hopefully inherit that. And that's why white people have more money than Black people, because Black people's homes were either decimated and taken over, like in the case of Brooklyn Village, where the government said, no, we want this space for government buildings, and they wiped out all of those legacy homes, which, don't get me started on that. That's terrible. But so government, you've heard of redlining. You've heard of, areas where, Black folks weren't allowed to buy houses. They weren't allowed to get a loan to buy a house. There's so many reasons why. That's why right now the wealth gap between Black people and white people is so huge. And it's mostly, a lot of it has to do with property that has not been allowed to be inherited from parents and grandparents and that kind of thing. And because that's where wealth is often, that's where investments grow a lot of times, is in real estate and in homes and that kind of thing. So so on the one hand, you live in an area that's gentrifying. That's great news, because your small investment has grown. Okay, but the problem is, now you can't afford it anymore because the property taxes are too high. So that's the problem. You can't afford to keep up the property. And then somebody comes along and says, I'm going to give you, X number of dollars for that property. So let's say you live in Charlotte. You live in this area that developers want to be in. And you bought your house for 50 grand, and they're going to give you 200 grand. Okay. You're like, hey, wow, that was great. That's a lot of money. The problem is, now you have this 200 grand. You can't buy anything with 200 grand in Charlotte. It gets very hard. You have to go out. So your home, you know, your identity, all the things that you invested in, your neighborhood, your people that you've been with, you have to leave so that you can afford to live somewhere. Like that's screwed up, right? And so trying to figure out the balance between helping people be able to stay in their homes versus people having to sell to developers, take the money and try to find somewhere else to live. I mean, it's just terrible. One of the things that we did in our meeting last night was there is a project called Greer Heights. How many of you guys know where Greer Heights is? It's near Cotswold, and it's kind of between, I guess, Randolph Road and Monroe Road. And it's a neighborhood that is gentrified. It's a neighborhood, you know, where you really see, go drive around down there, okay? Go look for Billingsley Avenue and Randolph Road, and just go drive around down there. You'll see there are some cute little houses that have all been built, you know, nice little cute, you know, old-fashioned looking little mill house type things. And then you'll see, drive down the road and you'll see the real thing, you know, real houses that were built, you know, however many, 60, 70, 80 years ago or whatever. And they're run down, and, you know, those people's property values are going up, and now they're not going to be able to stay there because it's all being rebuilt. But last night we were able to approve a program for a developer who is willing to keep units for those people who lived in the neighborhood with a subsidy from the county. Those people will be able to keep, they'll be able to stay in those, in the new place that's being built. So they're building a new place. This happens to be for people over 55 because there's a lot of older folks that live out there. And so it's going to be a building with, I can't remember how many units, and they're going to be set aside units for affordable units. And so that's a model for trying to, yes, it's going to improve the area, but hopefully it's going to allow people to stay in the area that they call home. And so it's kind of a, it's like a, it's not an answer, but it's a step, you know, to try to help folks in that position. So there's a lot being done around affordable housing, and all kinds of different models, and trying to take homes that were naturally occurring affordable housing, meaning older houses, right? It's not like you build houses to be affordable. It's like houses that were already built and they're older that people don't really want. You know, you can rent them at lower rates. We have to keep those and you know, keep them up, make them safe, make them, you know, nice for people, and keep the rents low instead of building new stuff. We're never going to get ourselves out of this hole just by building new stuff. We gotta have the old stuff there and keep it affordable. Don't tear them down, just remodel, repair, and keep those older units. So I hope that answers your question somewhat.
No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're totally right. Driving through downtown or uptown,
Yeah.
a lot of other places in the U.S., it's tragic to see how people are being forced out of their homes. You know, there is a project, and right next to it is like a Whole Foods. So the gentrification is just wild, and so right in front of our faces.
It's true, y'all. And I really think that one of the things that often gets missed is, you know, we have to bring up wages. You know, we have to bring up wages so that people don't have to have subsidies, you know, in order to afford places to live. They need to be able to make more money, which means you need to be able to get good jobs, which means we need to have job training. So all of these things are connected, and we really are, at Mecklenburg County, we really are trying to address all of those pieces of the puzzle. We're investing in job training. We're investing in CPCC to be a place where you can go and get a nursing degree or whatever, that's a step into the medical field, and then you can go on from there. Trying to create these pipelines, so to speak, of opportunity for people, so that you don't just get in a low wage job and stay there. You got to be able to move up, so that you can afford a better place to live or a more secure place to live. And so I think raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour is an absolute must, but even that's not enough, for people. You need to be able to entry at $15 an hour, and then you need to be able to improve yourself, learn skills, learn whatever, so that you can get a different job, rise up in the company wherever you are. Things like that needs to happen. People need to have upward mobility, so that we don't have to have so many people living in poverty and needing affordable housing, subsidies and stuff.
Can I add something just to
Sure.
that? So like how you were saying with they're going to build that building so that people who already live there can still afford to live there. But then on top of that, bringing in, people who might have a little more wealth, like that to also kind of almost ties into the education too, because if you have people who are there who have more money and can maybe give more to the schools around there are getting more money, which
Mhm.
means that in turn they're going to hire better teachers and better things like that, so that those kids are getting better educated. And how you're talking in South Carolina, we saw that when my parents went to go and send me to elementary school. They were going to send me to Indian Land, and my mom walked in the school and she was disgusted and just wouldn't send me there because they didn't have the money to keep the school properly cleaned and everything for students. I had the privilege, well, I call it a privilege, but it's not exactly. The parents sent me to private school for K through 5th, which in some ways I think is great. In other ways I think was very damaging, because I was very sheltered there. It was private Catholic school. But that, we saw some of the neighborhoods around here get built up, and they were nice, very nice neighborhoods. But we also saw people being pushed out of their homes, because in this area around here, there were more, big open fields, and people owned huge pieces of land, but they didn't really do anything. They just had their house and they just kind of sat there. And I definitely think that that's a great thing, because like you said, with the pipelines, those kids are now, those kids that live in those areas will now have access to a better education, which means that they are more likely to be able to go out into the world and get better jobs, because unfortunately a college education is pretty much required to have a job that can pay you a living wage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great.
Well, thank you, Olivia, for your input. We really appreciate the insight. I'm going to pass the floor to Michelle next, and this will be our last question.
Okay.
Hi. So my question is, what changes have you seen in the economic welfare of marginalized communities as a result of COVID-19? And as a member of the Economic Development Committee, what are you doing personally and politically to uplift the stories and experiences of the communities that have been impacted the most by COVID-19?
Wow, that's a huge question. We've done a lot at the county level for trying to, we have certain grant programs for small businesses. When we say small businesses, you have to really think about what that means. That means families, right? Because, who owns small businesses? It's people with families. People being able to have a grant for your business to keep the lights on or to pay the rent. It means people hopefully can keep their business, which means that's how they feed their family, right? So that's one thing. Now, who knew that it would take this long? Nobody knew when we started out with COVID that we were going to be, it was going to take so long to get through it. And, of course, we know that's because our federal response has been so dismal, we could have been through it by now. We could be where we're all able to do a whole lot more than we are right now. We could be opened up for business if we had responded better to the pandemic. But having said that, so we've done, grant programs for small businesses, and we've been, the county has, for homeless folks, we have, hotels where we're, putting people up in hotels because it's not safe for them, at-risk people, the people with a higher risk. We can't put up everybody in hotels. There's just not enough hotels. First of all, there's not enough money for us to pay the hotels because, we have to pay for the food and the upkeep and all that kind of stuff when you house people in hotels. So that's something else. But the CARES Act that you guys have probably heard about at the federal level, the county was able to get something like $30 million. And so like what I did was I called up the mayors of the towns in my district and worked with them on, hey, what are you guys seeing from your perspective? Each one of the towns has like a help center, and those help centers provide food for people, like food pantry, assistance for like electricity and that kind of stuff. They're assisting people who are on the margins. And so we went to those help centers and said, how much money do you need to meet the demand that you're seeing? And so I was able to get $1 million for each one of those towns for their help centers. And then people who live in Charlotte, because if you live in Matthews, Mint Hill, or Pineville, you don't have the same resources that people that live in Charlotte have. So you have to go to your town, your municipality for some help. So we were able to, keep trying to create ways of getting money to people for relief, funding the food banks and, funding small businesses, food banks, schools. We were part of trying to help get, resources to people through the schools. Remember when kids were going to pick up meals that were dropped off at bus stops and stuff like that? Those are the kinds of things that we help to fund. But as far as, I'm not sure if that's totally answering your question though, if you're talking about how do people come back from that, from the devastation of losing their job. This is still a work in progress. And they're, as soon as the evictions hit, and a lot of them already have, it's just heartbreaking. But we do have legal aid that, people can go to help argue, to get out of evictions and to negotiate with landlords. And so we do fund those kinds of efforts. Y'all, we have people who are refugees who don't speak English that need legal help because they're getting kicked out of where they live. There's tragedy everywhere. It's huge and overwhelming, and it's a work in progress. So trying to get out PPEs, masks and all that kind of stuff. We have all these efforts going on to try to help people, to try to test people, to try to reach people where they are. Having mobile units that are going into areas to have people come and get tested and stuff like that. So there's a lot that we're doing at the county level. But it's not enough.
Oh, thank you.
We understand it's a work in process. This is the first time we've ever had to deal with something like this.
Right.
It'll take a while.
Mm-hmm.
That is all of our questions for today. So thank you so much for being here. And
wow.
Yeah. Do you have any final words for us? Anything to wrap up the session?
Well, you guys, if any of you would like to be on my mailing list, I send out like every few weeks. Actually, I haven't sent it out as often as I should, but I'm going to try to send them out at least every couple of weeks, a newsletter that shows what we've been up to in the county. You know, kind of like, you know, I was just working on it with somebody who's helping me with my newsletter to, you know, talking about the opioid crisis. What's going on with that? What is the county doing? And it's got all these bullet points about what we're doing with the opioid crisis. And so, you know, it just has some information in it. And I'd love for you guys, if you are interested, you can be on my mailing list. It's just an email that comes however often. And you can totally, you know, learn a little bit here and there about what we're doing. And I'm going to need some legs on the ground to hang door hangers. I don't have one here, but I'm running for re-election, so I got to have people that'll hang those little door hangers that, you know, to try to get my name out there to people who don't know me. So if anybody wants to volunteer for my campaign, I'd love to have you. So just I'll tell you what my email address is, and you guys can contact me. So this is for my campaign, which is an easy way to reach me. Or you can also go on the county website and find me anytime. My county email address is posted on the website. But for my newsletter, that doesn't come through the county, because that would be a violation of the Hatch Act. Okay? Who's violating the Hatch Act every single stinking day? Your president. But anyway, we don't violate the Hatch Act, okay? At the county, we're like, no crossing over political and county business. So here's my email for you guys is Susan, so SUSAN, at McDowell, McDowell, the number 4, MECK.com. So you can also find me on my website, which is McDowell4MEC.com. So the number 4, McDowell4MEC.com, and you can link to my email and everything on that as well. And so keep in touch. Email me if you have a concern or a question, and be like, hey, I don't understand this, or, you know, whatever. Tell me I was on that Zoom call, and you know, I have another question or something. Anytime. That's what I seem to do a lot of, is answering emails. So, but that's okay.
Well, thank you so much. We will put all this information on our website so that it is accessible to students, you know, who feel free to look at it. And thank everyone for coming. You guys sign up for our upcoming town halls, and hopefully we'll see you later. Thank you.
All right.
Bye. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was great being with you guys. Really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.